Imagine this. It's a quiet night. The lights are off, and the only sound is the faint crackling of a candle. You and your friends gather around a table, your fingers lightly resting on a small, triangular piece of plastic. You ask a question, and suddenly, the piece begins to move. It spells out words, answers questions, and maybe, just maybe, it speaks to something beyond this world. This is the Ouija board, a game, a tool, or perhaps a doorway to the unknown. But here is the question. Is it just a harmless toy? Or is it something far more dangerous? Tonight, we're diving into the chilling history, the terrifying stories, and the unanswered questions surrounding the Ouija board. And we're doing it in one shot. No cuts, no breaks. Just you, me, and the mysteries of the spirit world. But before we begin, let me ask you this. Have you ever used a Ouija board? Or maybe you've heard stories about them? Tell me in the comments below, because by the end of this video, you might just think twice before calling out to the other side. The Ouija board, also known as a spirit board, has been around for over a century, but its origins are shrouded in mystery. The modern Ouija board was patented in 1890 by Elijah Bond, but the idea of communicating with the dead dates back much further. Ancient cultures used similar tools, like the Chinese planchette writing or the European talking boards to contact spirits and seek guidance. In the late 19th century, spiritualism was all the rage. People were obsessed with the idea of communicating with the dead, and the Ouija board became a popular tool. But here's the thing. No one really knows how it works. Is it the spirits moving the planchette? Or is it our subconscious minds? Or is it something else entirely? During the height of its popularity, the Ouija board was marketed as a harmless parlor game. But it didn't take long for people to start reporting strange and unsettling experiences. Some claimed to communicate with loved ones who had passed away, while others said they encountered malevolent entities. The board's reputation quickly shifted from a fun game to something far more sinister. Over the years, the Ouija board has been linked to countless chilling stories. Some say it's a harmless game, but others swear it's a gateway to something darker. Let me tell you about one of the most famous cases, the Zozo demon. In the early 2000s, a man named Darren Evans began documenting his experiences with a Ouija board. At first it was harmless. He'd ask simple questions, and the board would respond. But then, the planchette started moving on its own, spelling out the name Zozo. Over time, the messages became more sinister. Darren claimed that Zozo was a malevolent entity that tormented him and his family. He even recorded his sessions, and the audio is unsettling, to say the least. But Darren isn't the only one who's encountered Zozo. Hundreds of people have reported similar experiences, claiming that the demon attaches itself to them, causing nightmares, poltergeist activity, and even physical harm. Is Zozo real? Or is it just a figment of our collective imagination? Either way, the stories are enough to send chills down your spine. Then there's the story of the Watsuka Wonder, a case from the late 1800s. A young girl named Lurency Venom claimed to be possessed by the spirit of a woman named Mary Roth, who had died years earlier. The possession began after Lurency and her friends used a Ouija board. For months, Lurency exhibited strange behavior, speaking in Mary's voice and recalling details of Mary's life that she couldn't possibly have known. The case remains one of the most well-documented instances of supposed spirit possession in history. Now, let's talk about the science behind the Ouija board. Psychologists have a term for what happens when people use it: the ideomotor effect. This is when our subconscious minds cause small, involuntary movements like the planchette moving across the board. In other words, it's not spirits moving the planchette, it's us. But here's where it gets interesting. Studies have shown that people who use Ouija boards often report experiences that can't be explained by the ideomotor effect alone. They hear voices, feel cold spots, or see objects move on their own. So, is there more to it than just psychology? Or are these experiences just tricks of the mind? Some researchers believe that the Ouija board taps into our collective unconscious, a part of our minds that holds memories, fears, and desires we're not even aware of. This could explain why so many people report similar experiences, like encountering the same entities or receiving the same messages. But even if the Ouija board is just a psychological tool, that doesn't make it any less fascinating or any less terrifying. Not everyone who uses a Ouija board has a terrifying experience. Some people swear it's helped them connect with loved ones who've passed away, but others aren't so lucky. Take the story of a woman named Sarah. She used a Ouija board with her friends one night, and at first, it was fun. But then, the planchette started moving violently, spelling out threats and curses. Sarah said she felt a presence in the room, a cold, heavy feeling that wouldn't go away. She stopped using the board, but the experiences didn't stop. She claimed to hear whispers in the dark and see shadows moving in her peripheral vision. To this day, she says she regrets ever touching the board. Then there's the story of a man named James. He used a Ouija board as a teenager, and at first, it seemed harmless. But then, the board started spelling out the name of his deceased grandmother. James was skeptical, but the board began revealing details about his grandmother's life that he had never shared with anyone. He became convinced that he was truly communicating with her. But then, the messages turned dark. The board claimed that his grandmother was trapped in a place of suffering, and that James needed to set her free. He stopped using the board, but he says he still feels her presence, as if she's watching him. Stories like Sarah's and James's are why many people warn against using Ouija boards. They say it's like opening a door, and you never know what might come through. So, what's the truth about the Ouija board? Is it a harmless game? A psychological tool? Or is it something far more dangerous? The answer is that we don't know. And maybe that's what makes it so terrifying. The Ouija board forces us to confront the unknown, to ask questions we might not be ready to answer. One thing's for sure, the Ouija board isn't just a piece of cardboard and plastic. It's a symbol of our fascination with the afterlife, our fear of the unknown, and our desire to connect with something beyond this world. But here's the question, is it worth the risk? So, the next time you see a Ouija board, ask yourself this: are you willing to take the chance? Because once you open that door, there's no telling what might come through. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of the Ouija board, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comments, have you ever used a Ouija board? What happened? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.